Why are we so afraid to make mistakes? Are you one of the thousands out there who stop themselves from living freely because they are always still living in fear? Fear of making mistakes is so common. Some are aware of this tendency, while some aren't, but unconsciously get anxious when they anticipate that they may end up making a mistake. Since making mistakes is a natural part of life, I thought it would be a good idea to publish this post in an attempt to bridge the gap. So over here I have a quote from Theodore Roosevelt that says, "The only man who never makes a mistake is the man who never does anything." So the top 5 reasons why people are afraid of making mistakes. 1, upbringing. Since childhood, whether or not um, we are aware of rewarded for things that we do right or correctly, more often than not, we have been scolded or punished for making mistakes. Whether it is about making a silly calculation error in math or leaving a book behind at a friend's place. Therefore, we have hardwired our brain to think that it is terrible to make mistakes. 2, fear of rejection. Many of us dread being rejected or ridiculed or mocked at. It is so important for us to be accepted by our loved ones that we always want to come across as correct and perfect to them. We believe that if we make mistakes, it will tarnish our reputation. Therefore, even in the worst case scenario where we end up making a mistake, we are always prepared to blame an external variable for it. Fear of the unknown. Many times we do not know what it will happen if we make a mistake. We imagine that the consequences would be earth-shattering, and we are so petrified by the imagined scenario that we absolutely dread making a mistake. 4, the right-wrong debate. Being right is often overrated by people around us and the society at large. The need to walk right, sit right, speak right, and do things right has been reinforced endlessly. The reactions, both verbally and non-verbally, towards those who might perhaps trip or clumsily drop some things or forget to pay the light bill are often not very pleasant. People therefore do not want to be at the receiving end of such reaction, and therefore choose not to make mistakes at all in the first place. 5, disappointment in oneself. Many a times we set unrealistic standards for ourselves by making mistakes. We look small in our own eyes in order to live up to self-created expectations. We become afraid to falter. Is it possible to overcome this fear? Yes, it is. A lot of my clients have worked on their fear of making mistakes and are now comfortable with themselves, accepting the fact that mistakes are very much a part of each of our lives. So I have this thing here that says, if we learn from our mistakes, why are we always so afraid to make a mistake? Here are some quick tips on how to overcome this fear of making mistakes. And then I have this thing, mistakes, mistakes everywhere. I just thought it was cute. Changing our perception of making mistakes from being a disastrous offense to a learning experience. At the end of the day, a mistake is just an alternate way of doing something. Let's take the example of driving in a new city. It is pretty much possible that you miss a lane because you weren't clear with the instructions on Google Maps. However, at the end of the experience, you might have stumbled upon a shortcut. Therefore, a mistake is not a disaster. It is a learning experience, which mostly teaches us how not to do things. Telling yourself it's not the end of the world if I make a mistake. Most of the times, in fact, all the times, it is not the situation. But what I'm telling myself about the situation that results in my final experience. Therefore, if I start swearing at myself each time I make a mistake, I will dread mistakes not because of the mistake by itself, but because of my reaction to it. However, if I bring about a shift in my self-talk and tell myself, it's okay, buddy, it happens, it's not such a big deal. Over time, I will be able to make mistakes as part of as part and parcel of life. Asking yourself, have I ever made a mistake? How much ever you may wish to be in denial, it is particularly impossible for you to have not committed a single mistake in your life, ever. If it were such a terrible thing, you wouldn't have survived. However, the fact that you have survived, are functioning well, and being well for yourself, shows that it really isn't such a bad idea, a horrible thing after all. My computer froze. Okay. So, evaluating whether people around you have ever made a mistake. We often get overwhelmed by our circumstances. However, when we observe people around, especially those who are generally happy and confident with themselves, we may at first think that their life is perfect. However, on interacting with them or by observing closely, we notice that it is not their perfect life, but their acceptance of their imperfections that allow them to be happy and content. So on this last slide, I have the benefits of making mistakes. That's true. Making mistakes do have a shared benefit, and they are. You become wiser. You have more hands-on experience, and therefore know how it is to make a mistake and come out strong. You become more aware and accepting of yourself and discover new aspects of your personality. You realize that mistakes are as much a part of our life as anything else, and that it is absolutely normal. And you enjoy enhanced relationships with your loved ones because you are not harsh with anyone that makes mistakes. I truly believe that each of us is rapidly moving on a path of growth, progress, and success. We often come across roadblocks or speed breakers, which may dampen our spirits. However, life is meant to be celebrated and not fret over spilt milk.